The Sustainability Show here on LinkedIn. I'm your host, Blaise Hope, Editor-in-Chief of Sustainability Magazine. And joining me today, once again, is March 8 Editor-in-Chief, Lucy Buchholz. On today's show, we will talk about the latest news as usual, and also about the March 8 show, and of course, the top 100 women in sustainability, which we just published, with a little look at March 8 too, and Lucy's list over there. April is a big month, as was March, but we started off April with top 100s at BizClik Media for sustainability. We had March 8, procurement, supply chain, tech, and fintech. Make sure you check all those out. But I tell you what, my email is blowing up with requests on how to be included, how we calculate. So I thought, why not see what you guys think? Therefore, our poll for today: what should be the most heavily weighted factor when evaluating people for the top 100 women in sustainability list? Option 1, the size of the company. Option 2, how innovative their role is. Option 3, personal track record. And option 4, their personal mission. That's where they're going. So please vote in that. And also, we would love to, as always, hear your views in the comments. We'll be checking in regularly to see where you guys are tuning in from. If you have any questions, please put them there. I'll do my best to answer them. I will also explain a little later how we did come up with the results, but you'll have to stick around to find out. Okay. So let's start by taking a look at the latest sustainability news. All right, Lucy, so let's take a look at some of our trending web stories. First up, the IAC shares insights into the sustainability talent pool. Now, there's a lot of analysis going on who's working on these sustainability agendas, within companies, at the junior level, at the senior level, also in government. And I know, Lucy, that you wanted to ask me some questions about this.
Yeah, I just wanted you to explain a little bit more about it for me. So what actually does the sustainability talent pool look like?
Well, it is a fairly diverse talent pool, which shouldn't be that surprising given that diversity is one of the sort of championed values of sustainability. It's very international. It tends to come not just from established major global economies, but also from countries that may be facing a greater impact from unsustainable practices. So the group IAC actually works with startups to recruit the best talent for their organizations. It also covers Europe, Asia, and the Americas. The key finding that the IAC came up with is that there's a low talent base. There's not enough people there to be able to tap into for the actual needs we have right now to address all of the sustainability challenges, most of all climate, that we currently face. And so this is really looking to highlight what needs to be done in order for us to be able to get this done. There's a quote here from Charlie Brooker, who's the head of the IAC. For decades, sustainability has been seen as, at best, a compliance activity, often a cost to organizations and not even acknowledged at all. So I think this is the issue, is this has been really viewed as a minority thing. It's like that extra thing that we do. We'll go to a sustainability program to show that we're doing it, or we'll promote some women to show that we're promoting women. Or this is where tokenism comes in. This is where greenwashing comes in. But basically, we need to highlight, okay, now that we've all realized there is work to be done, we now need to find a way to build out this talent pool very quickly, because it is hard to find people and hard to find the right people.
Yeah, and, thank you for explaining.
Yeah, of course, no, always happy to explain. Then our second news story is my favorite. Well, not really, but it's building a sustainable waste stream via a circular economy. Now, I tell people all the time how fascinating waste is. A waste stream is basically where your rubbish goes. So you divide a waste stream, as we see there with the recycling bins. There's a paper waste stream, there's a cardboard one, a plastic one, a glass. However it breaks down, it actually varies from country to country. And when you separate waste out, those are streams. And the further down the line they go into different streams. They are reduced during processes, and they become part of that. So the circular economy, meanwhile, is, as it suggests, keeping things going in a loop. So something becomes rubbish, it is reused. It is, for as long as possible, not disposed of. So it has a long life cycle, whether that's a material, a shoe. And then when it does, it can biodegrade, or it can be easily converted back into the economy and brought back in. That's kind of what it comes down to, Lucy.
Okay, so why is that so important then?
Well, look, I mean, it's a massive challenge to be able to manage our waste. There's 7.5, I think, billion people on the planet at the moment. We all produce rubbish. We don't have ideal ways of dealing with it. A lot still ends up in landfill. Recycling makes an impact, but it's a big thing to have to do. It's difficult. It's difficult to separate things out. You have to come up with innovative ways to do it. It's important because if we're going to consume goods, which we are, if we're going to have a strategy that's not going to continue to cause problems, we have to find a way to manage our waste stream, because that's currently where everything ends up. If we can crack that and make that sustainable, that changes how the world works. It changes consumer relationships with the rubbish they produce, but also the goods that they buy and the life that they lead. And this is what we're seeing now. But it's all almost moot unless we find a way to deal with the waste that we produce.
Oh, absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you.
No, awesome. And our final one, we just put this up today, but I think it's an important one, is how companies benefit from working with social enterprises. Basically, this goes back to companies it was an appliance thing to be able to take on a program, to be able to get things done. But in this article, as I suggest, I try to address the fact that, look, companies are very good at getting things done. They understand how to reach people within their markets. They understand how to do things efficiently. Social enterprises are purposeful. They have a clear vision. They have something they want to do. They're motivated, and they are good at getting public buy-in. That's kind of how they become social enterprises. If you combine the two, then what happens is you get people actually trying to effectively draw attention to a strategy that is socially important, that is engaged with local communities, and social enterprises are with the people who are very, very good at getting things done, companies. And this is the gap. This is the concern that we've always had, is what is the gap between companies that dominate wealth or dominate our economy, and people and the lives that they lead and the inequalities that they face. The entire motivation for me in doing the whole sustainability magazine is this is where things get solved. So companies working with social enterprises, it's far beyond now what, just saying that you did something. It is, they are actually producing real tangible results. And it's what people will be assessed on by investors, by their shareholders, and by their own employees. I mean, if you can't show that you're doing this, people are just not going to want to work for you anymore, which is a massive change. I know also that's a big part of what March 8 has been doing, Lucy, but I want to hear a lot more about that later. But for now, do you want me to tell you anything about social enterprises that I may have missed?
Well, I haven't actually been able to read the article in full because, as you mentioned, it only came up earlier today. But yeah. I just wanted to know who actually sets these guidelines that people and companies have to try to get to.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Can you repeat the question?
Fantastic. Sorry, it must be my connection. Yeah, I just wanted to know who actually creates these goals. So, for example, with the UN, like who creates these goals that companies have to work towards?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, who's actually created a goal that we can aim for? A lot of this has been kind of shooting in the wind. The only people really is the UN. So most company policies have focused on the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Credit where it's due, the Millennium Development Goals, which the UN set and were met, eliminating extreme poverty, were a roaring success, like an unbelievably successful. And I think we forget that is probably more influential on human life was the success in meeting those goals than anything else. And companies played a massive role in that. So this tends to not really get featured much because you tend to focus on bad things that are happening rather than good things. But a lesson was learned, right? And so they remain, the primary bellwether for what you're supposed to be doing. But there's a huge demand for, well, how else do we set goals? How else do we define what it is to achieve something sustainable? And this is exactly it. I mean, this is why, this is such an underexploited space, not just sustainability, but gender equality, diversity and inclusion we still haven't even fully understood how to measure it because we haven't agreed yet. And we're now at a point where we've got to figure it out imminently, really. Great to see that lots of people are tuning in on the comments. A few hellos from Spain. I think it's the same guy, but with a typo, but that's good. And we've got the UK, we've got Denver, Bangladesh, Norwich, good old Norwich. We will have a relationship here at BizClik with that wonderful cathedral city. For now, though, we're going to take a quick ad break, and then we're going to be back with a bit more discussion and a bit more updates from Lucy about her incredibly landmark week. Enjoy this video from DHL, our partner.
Every day, we connect millions of people and carry huge responsibility for our environment, our 500,000 colleagues, our partners, and the 220 countries we connect. We must find new ways to do what we do differently. This is not new to us, but we need to do even more. We need to collaborate and increase the pace to deliver positive impacts.
Our path to sustainable logistics focuses on where our business holds the biggest responsibilities. It is our responsibility to guide the logistics industry towards a sustainable future. That's why we will invest 7 billion euros to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, and we commit to zero emissions by 2050. Therefore, we will decarbonize our operations by using sustainable fuels and green energy to run our fleet and facilities, and by planning our routes and networks more efficiently.
The engine of our business is a truly diverse team of colleagues from all corners of the world. Our commitment towards our people is to create and maintain a safe and great workplace for everyone and continue to support inclusion, gender equality, and embrace our diversity. Our commitment is to have the highest standards for good business behavior in every corner of the world, to be a role model for responsible and ethical business conduct.
We will also continue supporting our local communities by encouraging volunteer work, helping colleagues in need, and leveraging our logistics expertise to truly improve lives along our journey. Join us on our sustainability journey. When we all work together, we will all make a positive impact and put forward our corporate purpose, connecting people, improving lives.
Everyone has the opportunity to act small and make the right choices, because every small action you take will be multiplied by hundreds of thousands of us.
We call on our employees, customers, partners, and investors to deliver a better future with us.
Welcome back to the Sustainability Show from the break. Great to see a little from Deutsche Post DHL there. We have a lot of coverage, including them and their executive insight this year, from a discussion with one of the authors of their white paper, Delivering Circularity, I spoke with Carsten Lutzenkirchen in Bonn. It was a fascinating conversation that'll be coming up in our it's in our issue now, actually, but we'll also have features coming up on last mile sustainability and fashion. Specifically, that white paper, of course, focused on fast-moving consumer goods, fashion, and consumer electronics. But enough on that for now. Quick look at our comments. We have some questions coming in. We have a hello from our glorious CEO, Glenn White from 38,000 feet, and hellos from Australia. Thanks for tuning in, and Ireland. And we have another great question coming in for SMEs. We'll get to that in the section later. But before we go into our top 100s discussion, I want to take a moment to thank Lucy for joining us here on the show. It's been great to have you here, but it's time for your own show. And you had your first March 8 show this week, didn't you?
I know, yes. So we had our first March 8 show on Monday, and it was 3:30 British Summer Time, and it was fantastic. It was so much fun, and I was joined by the marketing manager, Emily Cook, who's been doing great work for March 8, and she's really helped build this fantastic community of women, and we were actually able to give back and actually talk to these women and host a show like obviously you do with sustainability. And so it was our first show, and we had our special guest, which was BizClik COO Stacey Norman. And we just spoke to her and had a little bit of an interview and a discussion with her, just to discuss more about March 8 and obviously where it all came from and how she found the idea and how everything's been going, and also really importantly the future of March 8 as well. So obviously that's on LinkedIn, so if any of the viewers missed it and they want to catch up, of course they can have a little look at that. And we of course will be doing our shows every 2 weeks from last Monday. But yeah, it was really good fun. Did you manage to catch it, Blaise?
I did manage to catch it, but you've had a massive series of weeks here. The launch of the magazine looks phenomenal. We'll talk about it again just in a second, but you've had your own list come out. I'm just curious if you want to share with our viewers here a little bit about what were those motivations that started March 8?
Well, as I mentioned, so Stacey Norman had the idea of March 8, and I believe it actually came off the back of the top 100s from all the other sectors. So top 100 procurement, sustainability, technology. And I think she had such a great reaction from the women that were featured. And she just saw, that there are so many fantastic women out there and they need to be celebrated. So it kind of snowballed from there, I believe. And obviously now we've got this fantastic platform, community, magazine, we have events, and it's just absolutely fantastic that we are able to celebrate these women from all different sectors across the globe. Doesn't matter if they're business professionals or sports women or environmental advocates, for example. It's just women that we just want to celebrate. So it's really fantastic.
Well, you also, the global perspective of BizClik itself, we always try to maintain that, but of all the issues that we cover, few things have as much universality as gender equality, female emancipation, and women in the workplace. That crosses all cultural boundaries.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that was one of the hardest things about when we were creating our top 100 list, is because just 100 women. It at first it felt a little bit impossible, because obviously it's, as I mentioned, it's women across all different sectors, of ages, of countries, nationalities, everything, and to get 100 of those women in one list, it was challenging, but I am pleased to say that we have done it, and we also will be doing more lists as well.
Awesome. Look, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you would like to catch the show, you can check in the comments. Emily's very helpfully put a link to the show there. Have a look. This is really a fantastic title, multimedia digital title, and an endeavor that everyone should be getting involved in, and we're all massively excited about over here. Now, one of the reasons we're excited about it is we've all just put out top 100s. And without further ado, the top 100 for sustainability, top 100 women in sustainability came out earlier this month. And this is our first opportunity to talk about it. Before I get into, I'm going to focus on the top 10 today. And obviously, Lucy will speak with you about the March 8 issue. I want to talk about how we came up with the ideas. Please don't forget, by the way, to vote in our poll about what you think should be the most important criteria. But when you come up with a list like this, you have to find a way, you want to be non-biased, and you want to be there to be an element of quantitative assessment as well as qualitative. You want to have editorial criteria. You want to rank people according to, as much as possible, according to metrics that you can measure, but you also want to be ranking people according to the achievements that they've had, which require you to do a lot of research, but also according to the impact that you feel that they're going to have. It's a balancing act. And we came up with a combination of editorial criteria, non-biased algorithms, data scrapes, and obviously in the end, you've got to make choices, and they're hard choices. Just 100? Yeah. I mean, not even close, right? But we, in the end, we came out with a list, and massive congratulations to all the women on it. We'll be talking a lot more about that. Lucy, but your top 100 was a little bit different. Can you tell me a bit about it?
Different. So you had a little bit of help with your algorithms, but for us, we did it completely by just discussing, and the March 18 would get together quite regularly, and we would discuss who we thought would be in the top 100. And obviously, we had such a long list to begin with, and we had to really discuss and try to narrow it down. So it got lively sometimes, because obviously we all had our own favorites, and we were really pioneering and advocating certain people that we thought should be in the top 100. But yes, it's our top 100 is actually in alphabetical order, because I don't think you can really say that there is one best woman, for example. So we've just kept it as fairly broad by just saying these are our 100 top women of 2022, in no particular order. You can't really meet them like we did. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you always end up with difficult choices, and you become champions. You become a champion of the women that you decide that you want to favor, and the people that you want to give coverage to. But yeah, I mean, I think ranking people, rather avoiding ranking people, almost just finding a way to give them an equal spotlight is it's another very important way to do this.
Yeah.
And just before we go on, I want to go through some of our top 10. I'll list their names quickly, and we'll discuss a few of them in depth. So number 1 came out for us. Actually, I will start at 10. Number 10, Brigitte Witz, the VP of Social Impact and Sustainability at T-Mobile. Number 9, Kate Brandt, Chief Sustainability Officer at Alphabet/Google. Cécile Tézier, Sustainability and CSR Vice President at the manufacturing company Alstom. And then at number 7, Veli Ivanova, the America's Chief Sustainability Officer at EY, a phenomenal woman with a huge amount of achievement to her name. Christine Uri comes in at number 6, the Chief Legal Officer and Chief Sustainability Officer at NG Impact, which was founded specifically to help with the sustainability transition worldwide. Then Marie-Claire Davot from Caring, of course, behind multitude of major fashion brands, Gucci, Balenciaga. Then Katie McGinty, VP and Chief Sustainability, Government Relations and Regulatory Affairs Officer at Johnson Controls, think buildings. And now we do enter our top 3. Number 3, Ida Krabek. She's the Director and the Head of Global Sustainability at Ørsted. Ørsted, it's a fascinating story we've mentioned many, many times. Ørsted used to be the Danish oil and natural gas company, and they were about to invest in a massive coal power plant, and then the financial crisis hit in 2007 or 8 or 9 was when they were about to greenlight it. But right then, it was hit, the project got stalled, and then at the same time, we suddenly started to think a lot more about climate change. And then they looked inwardly and said, do we really want to be doing this? And then when they said no, they changed everything. And in the intervening decade, they have become the world's largest offshore wind developer and have stripped and sold off all of their fossil fuel assets. Ida Krabek's been an essential part of that. It's an unbelievable story. Number 2, Muriel Lefebvre, I think I got that right, Head of Global Sustainability Communications, Corporate Strategy and Sustainability at Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric, of course, the number one most sustainable company that we ranked in our previous top 100, and not just us, they are at the top of, I think we lost count, a dozen plus lists for sustainability, for green commitments, for diversity and inclusion, for gender equality, for representation. And BIL has been the key communicator of this to the world, both internally to the whole massive Schneider Electric Corporation, which is well over a century old, and to the entire world. She is the voice of a journey that has been decades and decades in the making. Schneider Electric only now reaping the rewards for decades of work, frankly. And number one is Lisa Ekstrand, the VP of Sustainability from Vestas. A phenomenal woman. Now, this is wind turbine technology. I don't want to say too much, actually, because Lisa is going to be sitting down for a recording with us that we will feature in our LinkedIn Live 4 weeks from now. A very, very busy woman, all the more busier for all the media requests she must be getting for the ranking that we just gave her. But I'm really looking forward to a massively in-depth conversation with her. But she is someone who straddles the public and the private world. She spent the last 12 years at Vestas, but she has been an advisor to the European Commission, of course, on climate change, on all sustainable issues, an incredibly influential person, but also has a full picture of the entire spectrum of actual sustainable change. It's a very rare combination that you find people who are actually able to understand this at this many levels. Greatly looking forward to our interview with her and then getting to feature it here on the Sustainability Show. I know that we need to keep things going, but in the comments we have our Chief Content Officer, Scott Birch, tuning in from Gloucestershire, which is great to see. We now want to have a look at a clip from Sustainability Live. This was a phenomenal event, and I believe we're now being looked at as the single most influential event in the sustainability world, only after COP26 and Sustainability Expo, which we'll hear more about later in September. It's going to be about 4 times the size. So here's a clip from a panel at Sustainability Live, hosted by our Chief Content Officer, Scott Birch. In this clip, we listen to a discussion about no decarbonization without digitalization with these amazing speakers. That's Jonas Lohom Hamann from Danfoss, Amit Desai of CO2 Hero, Marlene Oberheider from OneTrust, and Darren West, the product expert in circular economy from SAP UK. We did end up having to cut Amit Desai for time, but please view the full discussion online on our website or on YouTube. Let's take a look.
I think there's the old adage is that you can't change what you don't measure, right? So I think coming back to the topic of the panel, decarbonisation, you've got to start. You've got to start with something simple. I absolutely agree. Set yourself a goal that you can achieve. That's simple. Sign up to a science-based target, right? So we all know that we've got to cut our greenhouse gas emissions by half in the next 8 years. When you say it like that, it's quite scary, isn't it? So you've got to start somewhere. So set yourself a target, look at what you can achieve quite easily, prioritize, pick the quick wins, the low-hanging fruit, and then you can set a more comprehensive strategy. But no, you don't necessarily need a professional to do that. You probably know, and there's lots of free material out there, you probably know what you need to be doing, but please measure it, because that's the only way you're going to find out.
And Jonas, some final thoughts from you?
I think it's a super interesting topic, and I see that there are more and more happening in this field, and we also as a company being asked more and more. What can you do? What can we do? And maybe it's not the most simple solutions. That the ones that we have been working with ourselves. But I also just want to say, maybe because I think it was a bit. I didn't get to say that earlier, that data is of course also about new business models, and I think that's very important. And you make relatively, and now I don't have any engineering colleagues here in the room with me from my company, so the relatively simple, stupid components that we produce, making them smart, that actually enables new business models and new opportunities to decarbonize parts of your facility, of your even the air conditioner or a heater that is put right there. I mean, that is where you can look at what you can look at and start.
Overall, it's not about building nice looking reports and spending months a year just creating a report. Like, being transparent is always good, but reporting is not the point. The point is taking action, doing something. As we just said, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be 100% on day one. Small steps is perfectly fine, and make technology work for you. So use technology to pull in data that you already have, use technology to analyze the data, get the help from technology to make decision, drive action, but don't waste time on reporting. Reporting is great, but this is all about taking action. We just heard we don't have much time, so let's not waste it on things like paper reports.
Fascinating stuff. Well, you'll be happy to know we now have the answers to our poll. What's the most important factor we should consider in evaluating who makes the top 100 women in sustainability list? So the size of the company, just 4%. How innovative their role is, 21%. Personal track record, a whopping 55%. And their personal mission, where they're going, 20%. I think, people do want to see, what have you actually done? The size of the company, we can't ignore that, because if you are this incoming CSO at a company that touches everybody's lives, there's no escaping it. You are important, and we have to sort of recognize that. But yeah, people will evaluate you on who you are and what you have done more than anything else. Moving quickly for you, I think we have a section here and a very fun graphic. Kieran? Yeah, still the worst picture I've ever taken.
I love that graphic so much.
Lucy, here, far away.
Okay, cool. So my first question to you is, what is a sustainable workplace? How do we achieve that?
Great. Well, so look, I'll try to keep this brief, but a sustainable workspace is somewhere that you want to be. 2, that will remain there. Even if the world collapses, it will not poison it. It will become part of it. 3, operates in a way that allows it to sustain itself. You don't generate, you recycle, you have a sustainable waste stream, you make it somewhere that people want to return to, you make it a feature of life that it contributes to employee well-being, as well as a productive company culture, somewhere that you want to be, and the world wants to be there.
Absolutely, that's amazing. Thank you. And what do you mean by social impact as well?
Yeah, that's a good one. Social impact comes up a lot. Look, if you make a change that is for the positive in the activities of your company or along your supply chain where you help people out, that's social impact. Calculating that is incredibly important, and it's where some of the biggest changes are happening, and the learnings that people are crying out for is, how do we calculate it? How do we implement it? But the visibility we're now starting to get with supply chains, with value chains, with our action from the public, but also internally, means that social impact is more important than ever.
Amazing. And my last question for the day is, what are the best ways to implement ESG strategies?
Well, this is the biggest debate right now. We've had TCFD, SASB, we've had the Sustainable Development Goals, but frankly, people are crying out. The ISSB has just launched, basically in response to requests from G20 leaders. The ISSB was founded at COP26. They've said, right, these are our first 2 proposals for actually finding a way to implement and assess criteria and effective ESG practice. We're learning and we're codifying as we go. This is a huge year for it. These are the first time these results are coming out. Technology is a big part of it, but just collaboration is probably the biggest part of it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, look, that is going to be all we have time for. Lucy, best of luck. I know you were going to smash March 8. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Well, look, that's all we've got time for this episode. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure you tune in again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for interacting with us if watching live. and for taking part in the poll. I know we still owe answers to a few people who did put in questions. We will make sure that we get to those. We have a LinkedIn user from Ireland. What areas can an SME improve on with limited resources? More than you think. Address what you can, not what other people are addressing. Thanks to Lucy for being brilliant again, to Kieran, Greta, and the rest of the video production team. This has been a BizClik Media Group production. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Blaise. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.